Hi, everybody. I am here with Shashank Nigam. Hello, good morning to you over in Whistler, where you are right now.
Hey, good morning, Lorraine. Great to be speaking with you. And it's the first live interview this new year.
Yes. And actually for me, no, I don't think it is for me, but it's great to see you. And it's really great that you've given us your time to talk to us, because you are a seriously big hitter in this industry. And of all the people that I wanted to talk to, you definitely are the person. You have all sorts of things. You have a COVID-19 resource hub. You just are a big heavy hitter. And we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think we should do. How can we get travel and tourism back up and running responsibly? Tell me, what can we do?
There's so much. Well, thank you so much, Lorraine, for having me join the session. As you mentioned, I've been leading SimpliFlying for just over a decade now, 2 years, 12 years, actually. And I wrote a book called SOAR, which you see right behind my back, right there, which actually traces the journey of 8 or 9 different airlines around the world on how they survived over decades and became a strong brand. From Air New Zealand going from their bankruptcy to what a big hitter it is now, to Turkish Airlines becoming the global player they are right now, the largest airline internationally flying with the international destinations. But for the last 6 to 9 months, we have been solely heads down focused on COVID-19. And let's just say, I think the industry started out well.
Yeah.
Back in spring and summer last year, the industry really focused on trying to build trust again in travel. And at that time, that meant focusing on biosafety measures. It meant focusing on what are all the things we are doing beyond HEPA filters to keep you safe while flying.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we stumbled a little where it all stopped there. That became the dominant conversation for the industry, where at that time we should have moved on from, hey, not only are we keeping you safe in the air, but we are also not transporting any virus from point A to point B. And that leads to my second point. The second point really should have been testing before travel. Should have been left, right, and center, the focus last fall. But it took some time. The major industry organizations like IATA were still talking about how it's very unlikely to get the virus when you're flying. Yes, it is. An airplane is a safe place to be in, but nobody looks at flying as an isolated event. It's about, hey, I'm going to let's say you're going to London, okay? Yep. From Niagara, beautiful city where you live in, and you have to first go from Niagara Falls to Toronto Pearson. Yep. You have to then go through the Toronto Pearson terminal. Then you have to board the Air Canada or WestJet flight to London.
Yep.
And then you have to land in London. And let's say you're going to Covent Garden. You then need to take the Piccadilly line on the tube to Covent Garden Station. Or you have to take the Heathrow Express to Paddington and then take it to Covent Garden.
Yeah.
You have to take all of this into account. And we have not even reached the hotel or the restaurants and all the other stuff. So travel is a collective event. It's something that involves lots of things. And an airline saying, hey, I'm very clean. It's a hotel saying, my room is super clean. Come, stay.
Yep.
It doesn't work. So
you got to get there.
Step one was really the biosafety measures, but we shouldn't have stopped there. We should have then gone on to step 2, which is testing. Yep. Testing would ensure that no one who's sick will be transported by airlines. And we, as an industry, take this responsibility, not relying upon governments and borders to be closed upon us, because we are the ones who hurt the most when borders close, isn't it? And that was step 2. And step 3 really is tracing. There are people who will, take heed in the fact that airlines are cleaning their planes often. They're taking all of these biosafety measures. And that's the first step to building confidence. Second step, no one around me has the virus because they've all been tested before departure. And the third step, still, if someone is asymptomatic and someone seeps through the system, airlines will be the first ones to contact you if you get infected or if someone else gets infected and inform the authorities. Why not?
Yep.
This is what I mean by rebuilding travel responsibly. And this is why I believe it is the airline's responsibility to take the first step and not wait for governments to shut borders on them and ensure that they are leading the way in building confidence.
So that leads me to my question here is that are airlines responsible for the testing? Would you say, I mean, they do have a certain amount of responsibility here, and they are doing some things, but I feel like, and I said this to you before, I feel like it's a Band-Aid inside of a sling on a broken leg. It's just not necessarily working, and the right people are not listening. And as I said in my article yesterday in the Toronto Tribune, that they are that they're not listening to the right people. So let's say the government would really listen to the roundtable, to people like yourself, to ACTA, and they could definitely get a much better cohesive response, because the response right now is in pieces and it's not working, is it?
Yeah, I think that you nailed it there. It's not a cohesive response. We see different players doing different things. There is, let's say here in Canada, the federal government has instituted a testing before departure policy that goes into effect today, as we are speaking, on January 7th. And that means every single person traveling to Canada has to take a PCR test before departure. Now, that's not new. Countries have done this already. Yeah, lots of countries have done it. But the way it's implemented, it's a bit odd. Firstly, I do not believe airlines in Canada or the largest airlines flying to Canada were consulted before this rule was put into place. Yeah. So it caught everyone off guard on New Year's Eve. There was no date at that time revealed when this would go into effect. So the implementation left a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
At the same time, for the last few months, major Canadian airlines and airports have been running their own testing trials, which is encouraging. So Air Canada was running one in Toronto Pearson. It was testing upon arrival. WestJet was running one in Vancouver, also testing upon arrival and testing before departure from Vancouver. Alberta had its own testing program where you could skip part of the quarantine if you tested negative upon arrival after 5 days. All of these were not taken into account for this federal policy. So it seems like the right hand is not talking to the left hand.
Yeah.
And then think about it from the traveler's perspective. It's just so confusing. Right. If I'm in Barbados, for the argument's sake, I know Barbados is in the news these days in Canada, but if I'm in Barbados and on January 7th, I want to come back home to Canada, to Toronto, I've got a few options. Firstly, I have to get a PCR test in Barbados, which, by the way, if you book a test today, you're going to get an appointment for January 21st. There's a 2-week waiting because we're not high risk, we're not urgent. Barbados healthcare system needs to take care of the locals first.
Right.
So there's a 2-week waiting. Who's going to pay for my hotel for 2 weeks?
Right.
When the holiday was 1 week long, for example. Right? Yep. And think about it as a traveler. Let's say somehow I get the PCR test. I board my flight back to Canada. And what happens now? I come in with a negative PCR certificate so I can board my flight. And upon landing, I'm told, oh, would you like to take another PCR test that's free of charge? Maybe. All right. If it's free, I'll take it.
Yep.
Most people may not, because they already have a negative certificate. They already went through the trouble. Maybe if there was a rapid antigen test or a rapid test to say, all right, we'll just do a double check so that no one is infected and no one is asymptomatic, that might have helped.
Yep.
So this just shows that these things are not being done with consultation with the industry. And that's where I believe, had airlines themselves been taking the lead in terms of testing, offering testing through their airline websites, just like, I check in a bag, I choose my seats. Oh, and here, send me a test kit home.
Send me a test kit. Let's do this.
Exactly.
Also, that I noticed this morning there was somebody posting, does anybody know where we can get a test? We're in Jamaica at the moment and we can't find anywhere to get a test. so the government didn't give very much notice either. And if they had given notice, and they'd given notice for, I mean, this, in my opinion, this should have been done months ago. But let's say they'd given us at least a little bit of notice, then people could have, or countries could have started to set up travel-related testing centers. Like, for example, you look at St. Lucia, where I was a couple of weeks ago, they have an entire a hangar that you go into before you even get into immigration, where your test results are checked and your health is checked first. Well, they could have set up something along those lines for travelers, so that when they're going in and out, that's easy for them to be able to do. But giving no notice, how can they sustain this? This is just one more nail in the coffin of travel.
Yeah, it just hurts travel. You're right. Having these kind of restrictions imposed in a short notice definitely hurts travel. Having said that, I'm more of a guy who, when you get lemons, you make a lemonade. So it's always important to look on the brighter side of things. And the silver lining here is, hey, testing before departure definitely helps reduce the risk of transmission, which helps boost trust amongst travelers. And if we can get our chips in order, we can make this work better. Yes, on January 7th, someone flying, good luck to you. But hopefully by January 31st or February 7th, we'll have things in order.
Very good. Yes. Okay. So then let's say we've got a test on arrival. So we've done that. And what about tracing? I mean, what would you say about tracing? Because shouldn't there be better tracing?
So let me go back to a conversation I was having with a chief of a North American airport, a large North American international hub. And I asked, he was in the US, and I asked, so what about tracing? Would you like to take lead in tracing? And he says, I'm not really sure. It's not my job, is it? And I said, great. So whose job is it? And we went down a list of 3-letter short form words. So we started with, is it the CDC? Nah. Is it the TSA? Nah. Is it the, what was it? The incoming one, Department of Homeland Security, DHS. Is it the DHS? Nah. Is it WHO? Nah. In the end, after 15 minutes, we couldn't figure out whose job is it to help with tracing. Is it the local health departments? Yes, absolutely. But guess what? They've got much higher priorities than to trace people on a flight. And like it was in the case of a United flight a couple of weeks ago, it took 12 days to notify the guy who gave CPR to a COVID infected person that, hey, by the way, the guy you gave CPR to is infected. You don't want to be in that situation, because ultimately, whose brand took the biggest hit? United. So if I'm United right now, and actually United is taking the lead in contact tracing right now, if I'm an airline right now, I would think tracing today is where testing was 3 months ago. Everyone said, not my job. I'll wait for the governments to figure this out. Yeah. But you want to figure this out right now, because you don't want this to fly in your face 3 months down the road where, hey, there are some leaks, some passengers who came in, and the government took 14 days to notify. Airlines already have the contact numbers. Airlines already know how to reach these people because they're flying them. So why not just use the power of the app to send a notification? And there are credible photo notification apps that exist that can integrate seamlessly within the airline app without the passenger needing to identify anything else or download anything else. I believe our good friend Ian Matheson at 10-3 is such an app where the moment you board a flight, your exposure events starts. You go through your flight, and it ends when you go and pick up your bags. And throughout that period, in case you came in contact with anyone, then you will be notified.
Yep.
Right away. So the first step in notifying their passengers, and they might even notify the local health authorities. Now you're being a good citizen.
Yeah. And they're not notifying every single person that you could have been in the building with. They're notifying the people that you have created a bubble with, because this app actually creates these bubbles. So if you've gone within 2 meters of a person that then later tests positive, then they're actually going to notify the people that were in that little bubble. And I love the fact that he's going to be able to use it for things like the meetings and incentives industry. You know, you go into a meeting, I've been to IMEX, you know, I mean, it's absolutely massive. But if you could feel confident that you're going into a big auditorium, and if by chance you do come close enough to a person, you won't know it. But if the app knows it, then it's a safety net a little bit, so that you can actually keep yourself safe by wearing masks, but at the same time also have that contact tracing as well. And, you know, yes, it's not an invasion of privacy because it's anonymous too. Yeah,
it's anonymous. It's just letting me know if I'm sitting next to a table next to you, and if in case you tested positive, then I will be notified. It's doing it, and you know, it's sort of goodwill gesture almost. And here's the thing: I know lots of airlines currently are thinking, it's the government's job; they will do it. Guess what? In Asia, airlines that we've been in touch with, they know that the governments are doing it. In Singapore, the government has a very strict contact tracing app. In Hong Kong, in Qatar, in Dubai, in Brunei, all of these places have done a decent job with contact tracing.
Yeah.
These apps are not made for travelers. They're for locals. In fact, Canada's own tracing will not notify you if you are in the UK, for example. You need to be local. You need to be here. If I'm in Qatar, for example, I have a friend and he has the app. The app traces his location. So there are different levels of privacy. Here we can confidently say we're not knowing anything about you. You can't say that about the local countries. So will an airline accept the various privacy levels in each countries for the locals, or is it better to offer a tracing app for your own travelers, which already embeds in itself the negative COVID certificate through an app like Common Pass, for example?
Yeah, no, I agree. So how can we get this back? I mean, how can we get travel after, you know, vaccinations have been rolling out? What is it going to look like?
So I know a lot of us believed in the industry that, vaccine, that's just the jab and fly, jab and go, what Ryanair was advertising in the UK, for example. It's not the silver bullet that we had hoped for. Just when the industry thought that the light at the end of the tunnel is here, we realized that the light at the end of the tunnel is that of an oncoming train. And that reality is that we are going to be living in a part vaccinated world for the next few years. In fact, by all estimates, 20% of the world will be vaccinated by the end of this year, 2021. Even though this 20% will largely lie in the Western Hemisphere and the Northern Hemisphere. That's the unfortunate reality. But you will be living in a world where not everyone is vaccinated. Not only that, there is actually a vaccine hierarchy, which is what Dirk Singer, our head of research at SimpliFlying, likes to call it, where you've got the FDA-certified vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna. Then you've got the non-FDA certified European vaccines like AstraZeneca. Right now, it's not FDA certified. Then you've got others like Sinopharm and Sputnik vaccine, which to us in the West might sound like a joke, but guess what? In the UAE, Sinopharm has been administered to 70% of the healthcare workers. And it has a 75% efficacy. And guess what? In the developing world, where it is so expensive to store a Pfizer vaccine at, I think it's minus 20 degrees Celsius, a Sinopharm vaccine can be stored at, I think, 2 or 3 degrees Celsius in a normal fridge. So, and they already have that equipment. So which one are you likely to get, especially if there's a long queue to get the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine? So you're going to have, let's imagine a flight coming in on Emirates from Dubai to London. Okay, so lots of people are connecting. In June this year, you will have about 30% of the people who have an FDA-approved vaccine, another 20% who will have a non-FDA-approved vaccine, and about 50% of the people without a vaccine. That's the reality of travel for the short to medium term. Now, what do? Do you let people in if you're a UK border control? Do you let people in only with the FDA vaccine or a non-FDA vaccine or not vaccinated? This is why in this scenario, testing is here to stay. You just test everyone upon our arrival, or you test everyone upon departure and ensure that everyone has a test negative certificate in addition to whether or not they are vaccinated and they can fly. So testing is the way to reopen travel in the short to medium term.
Yep.
Long term, when the vaccine is mainstream, it might become like a yellow fever card that we can carry around. But that's really long term, and we know how many variables we've seen until then. What's certain right now is testing and tracing need to be implemented in addition to the biosafety measures, and airlines need to move on to these aspects of travel and own up and take ownership rather than wait for the governments to do stuff, because we know how it ends up. We know how it ends up and looks like, as we've seen in the UK or in Canada now.
Yeah, I hadn't actually thought of the whole hierarchy thing. That's very interesting you said that, because it's true. There are vaccinations in all countries. There's one just come out in China. And are we going to even recognize that? There was something said in England the other day in the Daily Mail I read, where they said they're not going to approve one of the vaccinations, because why need they do that? Because they've already got enough as it is. But if it's not approved, then if they do start to say, well, you have to be vaccinated in order to come into our country, and this COVID vaccination passport that everybody's talking about, then that doesn't work. And I hadn't actually thought of it like that. So it's
exactly. It becomes a tricky question, because right now, let's say the Sinopharm vaccine is not approved in the UK to be administered. But would you allow a person who has taken a Sinopharm vaccine? Maybe. And so all of these standards need to be developed. And the only thing consistent here then is testing.
So what if, let's say, I get vaccinated? This is what people have said to me. Well, if I get vaccinated, I can fly anywhere then, right? Because I'm not going, and it's not going to work like that, is it?
Yeah, you might be able to fly to 2 places in the world, which are open to anyone with any vaccine,
right?
But not necessarily every business traveler's dream.
Right. No, absolutely. The smaller places necessarily are not going to do that. So, okay. So what else can we do, in general? I know that I've been working with ACTA, and ACTA is very unhappy with the fact that the government came out with this new protocol without consultation, without really giving us enough time, and they came out with a statement yesterday saying, this is just so unreasonable that they've done this. So what can we do? What sort of resources do we have? I know that you've got a COVID-19 resource and you're very up on it, but what can we do?
Yeah, you can. I mean, airlines are welcome to visit our COVID-19 resource. We actually have a daily, it's called COVID Av Daily newsletter, authored by our research director, Dirk Singer. It's been going on daily now since March last year on what's next, what do you plan for, and everything I've discussed is in there. So you can subscribe to that. I really believe that airlines need to take this, and airports as well, need to take this in their stride. The government is not going to back down.
Yeah.
I personally do not see a point of releasing these statements, because it's the government you're dealing with. This is not an individual who will feel embarrassed and, oh, let me back out. So sorry, I hurt your sentiment. I do not see a point in releasing these statements myself. I see a point in taking proactive action. If I'm an airline, I'd be emailing every single passenger right now with a booking in the next 30 days to an international destination saying, here are 3 links to a test that you can take before departing, upon arrival, and here are 2 test kits. I'm sending it to you right away. I have your address. You will get them before departure. Right? That's what the airlines should be doing.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. We have access. We've launched something called Simply Tested, where we have mail-in test kits, PCR test kits, by the way, which can be sent to a passenger 7 days before departure. He takes a mouthwash test, uses his phone to record himself, so we know it's him taking the test, seals the box, and the UPS man or the FedEx man picks it up, and before 24 to 48 hours before departure, he gets his result as a QR code on his phone, and he uses that to board it. We are partnering with a CE certified test called Test Forward to do this, and it can be used by any passengers across UK, Europe, and the Caribbean and Mexico who are coming back to Canada or the US, for example.
Right.
So we have to think about this from a customer journey perspective.
Yeah.
not just my business and the government. Really put yourself in the feet of the guy who needs to travel right now to see an ailing grandmother, and
Yeah.
that's why he's desperately traveling, like some of our ministers did, I believe. And he needs to come back, or she needs to come back. How can we make it easier for them? Can we just send them 2 test kits before they depart so that they can use one before departing from here and one on the way back? Can we make this so simple and seamless so that they can order it directly from our website right when they're checking in or right when they're booking their ticket, and they can get their QR code with the negative results on our app without downloading anything else? We really need to think through this COVID-19 customer journey, which
Yes.
now includes not just, hey, I've got a HEPA filter announcement, but it includes, here's where you can take the test, here is the exposure notification that will turn on, and we will be the first to notify you. That is rebuilding travel responsibly.
So you and I are going to partner up so that we can actually help travel agencies to inform their clients, and we're going to be able to help them to give the information clearly so that we can get travel and tourism back up and running again responsibly. And I'm actually very excited that we can do this, because I think if we're able to help them, there's a lot of confusion out there. And with somebody like you on our team, this is something that we need to do. And I think it's so important that we can help these travel agents get their business back up and running. And I think they've got to stay positive. One of the things I really do advocate for is to tell people to just keep your head up, keep going, because right now things are going to get better.
Yeah.
But if we've got you on our team as a travel industry, we can help the people that are selling travel to navigate this post-COVID world or the pandemic world, right?
In fact, now the need for a traditional travel agent is more than ever, because guess what was the question I was asked by a friend recently? Hey, Shashank, in early January, I'm looking to host a meeting for all my sales team. Where in the world can I get my sales team in one place? And I was thinking, wow, I don't know the answer to that. I wish a travel agent could help me.
Yeah.
Same thing. Someone who was asking me in the US, and he says, all of my sales team are spread across the US. Can I get them to one city without them, having to jump through tons of hoops? Do this? It's like, yeah, that's, suddenly travel agents are relevant again, and COVID-19 is an opportunity. So blessing in disguise, perhaps, for the business.
Yeah, and when that happened, so for example, last year I took, not last year, the year before, I took a group of people to Asia with Massimo Capra, the chef. And there were a lot of places that we had to get advance visas for. So we were in Myanmar, we went to Vietnam, and they're very strict. And so we needed to do a little bit of advance research and applications and things like that. So it's very similar to that. Yes, it's going to take us a little bit longer, but perhaps travel agents can charge a little bit more money and can actually charge the clients and say, yes, I'm going to help you, but I'm going to charge you for my time, because my time is now a lot more valuable than you may have seen it before. I have a guy who will constantly call me and ask for my advice and then say, yeah, I'm going to use my points. And, and the second word is off. And the first word, choose any you like, So now is the time when a travel agent's value is bigger than it's ever been before. And that people are going to come to you and say, I need help. I need to know, A, where can I get a test because I'm going to go to Jamaica?
Yep.
B, where can I get my group team together because we want to do something face to face? And like you said, where can we go to get tested for this? What can we do? And I think that is something that you and I will be able to assist with and bring value to travel agents and the travel industry in general to be able to help them get back up and running.
Definitely. And this is how, the travel agents can actually work with airlines and be helping airlines too, because ultimately they want to fill up the planes no matter how they do it. And if you can help the travel agents and the industry can help, why not? Let's all work together.
Let's work together and let's get this party restarted. I think that's the biggest thing. So, okay, I have been very well informed by all of this, and I'm really excited. I'm almost excited to sort of get going right now. What else do we need to know? Is there anything we've missed, Shashank?
I think I want to share a personal experience, which is something that I shared yesterday. It's something that gives me hope for the year. The last time I flew was on a repatriation flight. I was stuck in India, where we took our kids for the first time last spring. And I was on a repatriation flight on Qatar Airways back to Canada. And I was really nervous. 22 hours with little toddlers in masks. Go figure. And I was already nervous. It was 2 overnight flights, and we didn't know how we were going to deal with it. And when we boarded the flight and we took the whole flight, I saw people who were kinder, calmer, more patient with passengers with young kids. I know how that's like, because when I travel on business, I don't want to be, right next to a person with a little kid. But here I was traveling with 2 little toddlers, and the gentleman, I was sitting in the middle. My daughter was on my right, and there was 1 hour around 2:30 a.m. I don't know which time zone, but 2:30 a.m. in the middle of the night, she had to use the washroom thrice. And the gentleman, the older gentleman who was next to me, managed to get up with a smile all 3 times. There was once when I was standing with my little daughter in the galley, and she was having a big fit. She wanted to run around, and obviously you're not running around with a mask in this COVID kind of flight, a repatriation flight. And she was kicking it up, and a couple of ladies came to the back, chatted up with her. She became calm. The flight attendants throughout were very nice. And I just felt, wow, I have never had such a nice flight as a pair of young kids. And that was my last flight. I just feel that people, when they take back to flying, will be kinder, calmer, more patient. And that's what gives me hope for the whole industry as a whole.
Yeah, no, I agree too. Me too. So, okay, if anybody has any questions, I know that we've had some very great comments, people thanking us for your interview. Somebody from Turkey thanked us as well, Turkish Airlines, Dominican Republic. That's awesome.
You've got a global footprint, Lorraine. That's what you've got.
Yeah, it's great. We've got people watching from all over the world right now, or have watched on the different platforms from all over the world, which is really fantastic. And the people from the Dominican Republic want our help as well to help get the word out of where they can get tested for there as well. So yeah, that's fantastic. So thank you so much for everything you do, and everything you're about to do, because I know that things are they're about to get even more serious now, and we're excited for all of the things that you can do to help us to get back up and running and get back to 36,000 feet, because that's what we need to do.
Absolutely, Lorraine. It's a pleasure speaking, and I must mention that all of this wouldn't be possible without my incredible team spread all over the world, from Spain to St. Petersburg, Russia, to London, to here in Canada, who work so hard to make me look good and make everything we do look good. And of course, your energy is infectious, and I cannot wait to get started.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for you, and I'm so grateful for you giving me the opportunity to work with you to help travel agents get all the information that they're going to need. And this is just going to be great. I feel like there's always an opportunity in a crisis, and Winston Churchill said, "Never waste a good crisis." Mm-hmm. And sometimes, I know that doesn't sound necessarily a positive thing, but it is. Right now, this is a crisis, and we have to be able to see it as an opportunity. If we see it as negative, you've seen me with my posts. You've seen me say, I had days where I just want to stay in my bed. New Year's Eve, I stayed in bed all day. I was so miserable. I stayed in bed all day. I was like you cannot ruin my New Year's like this. What are you doing, you stupid dinosaur government people who know nothing? And I did. I stayed in bed all day, and I only went downstairs to eat, and that was it. And so it's okay to have a day, but I have people that I call and I say, okay, I'm having a moment, and then they go, okay, you got this. Okay, just keep going.
Breathe.
Yeah. And then other days I've got people that'll come to me and say, okay, let's get this party restarted and get back up and running. And that's what
Lorraine, I think you have an opportunity for a side gig here. I've heard lots of people say there's a shadow pandemic going on, which is the mental health crisis because of COVID. I think you have an opportunity. You just need to do LinkedIn lives with lots of people, and you'll make them feel better, and you'll make them yourself feel better, and that will do a lot of good to a lot of us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I'm more than willing to do that. Yeah, definitely, because I know it affects me. It's affected a lot of people, and my boyfriend, he's working in construction, and he comes home every day, or especially last year, he came home and he almost creeps in the door and looks around to see, what side of the ledge am I today? Is she good? And he's sort of like,
hey, Lorraine, all husbands do that.
He's kept me going. Don't know what I would have done. I don't know what I would have done. And then we did travel, as you know, recently we did travel. But it was almost a necessity for me. I had to do something. I had to just do what I love, and we did it safely and responsibly. We did the testing, we isolated beforehand, and we were safe and responsible. But it was just a case of, will we ever travel again? We've got to do something. So we did, and I was grateful for that. Very grateful for that.
Yeah. So to be grateful for last year as well. So Lorraine, I'm so glad to have had this opportunity.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, and everybody, thank you so much for watching. And I hope that we can keep in touch, and we're going to do lots more to help the travel industry and the travel community. Here's just a little tiny weeny 5-second clip from my latest travel adventure. So thanks for watching. Thank you to my guest, Shashank Nigam, and I am excited to get started on this. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you'd like to support me more, then check out my Instagram page, and I've also got a YouTube channel as well. And there's loads more great content coming up very soon. So let's get this party restarted.